We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to AVRant. I'm Tom Andry, and I'm here with
Rob H.
Gary. Gary says we're the best when it comes, or the best of the best when it comes to no bull answers. I don't know if there's anybody out there not giving no bull answers other than us. There might be somebody.
That's not true. Come on.
Is there? The
Sure. I mean,
the HT guys. They don't. Do they answer a lot of questions? I don't listen to their podcast.
They don't answer a ton of questions, but they're not giving out bull. And Scott Wilkinson's giving out good info. If you're reading, guys like Chris Heinen and they're giving out good info.
Right.
So.
Gary has a
thank you, Gary.
5.1.2 system with a Marantz SR7010 powering B&W CM6 mains and a CM Center 2 S2 speaker wired with AudioQuest. Oh, don't tell me your wire. I don't care. Well, AudioQuest 14 gauge by-wire cables.
It's germane.
I know. A few weeks ago, his local HiFi dealer asked him to take home and try the Kimber cable 8TC by-wire speaker cable and see what he thought. Despite changing nothing else in the system, Gary's noticed a big difference in bass output from these. I think these are bookshelf speakers, right? So what are our thoughts on this? Okay, so first of all, there's bi-amping and bi-wiring. And bi is not spelled B-I for bi-wiring. It's usually spelled B-U-Y because manufacturers want you to B-U-Y more wires for really no output, no difference in sound. There's no really good reason to do bi-wiring. But there's really literally measurably no audible difference between
it is still
cable.
Going through the internal crossover of your speaker. You have done nothing besides
nothing but buying an extra set of wires. But that being said, why would you have heard a difference? There's a couple of reasons that you could have maybe heard a difference here. One would be that the gauge of the wiring is effectively different. I don't know what the 8TC are as compared to the 14 gauge by wire. I can see the 14 gauges are 14 gauge, so we know what those are. But I know the 8s might be 12 gauge, 11 gauge, 10 gauge, 9 gauge. Theoretically, if you had a super long run, that could make a difference. Honestly, when you get into esoteric cables and cables of this, AudioQuest is kind of famous for this as part of this thing. Kimber cable, infamous, yeah. Kimber cable, on the other hand, is a manufacturer. While they sell expensive cables that are high end, they're generally cables that I think that you might have paid too much for. Theoretically,
oh yes,
but
they're horribly overpriced, but they function
the way they should. So, my gut reaction to this is the AudioQuest cable was in some way acting as a passive EQ,
and that is entirely possible because AudioQuest is horrible. We talked about that Dragonfly USB DAC, which is actually a pretty darn nice product, and that's a shame because it's about the only nice product from a horrible company, in my opinion. I loathe AudioQuest. I hate everything they say in their marketing. Their people that go to the trade shows and stuff are the worst of the worst snake oil salesmen, although they're just equal to all the other terrible snake oil salesmen that are out there. Yeah. But they're a horrible company who sells terrible speaker wire. So it is not impossible that you actually had a genuinely audible difference here because previously you were using AudioQuest, which is garbage, horribly overpriced garbage. So now Kimber cable is horribly overpriced wire, but it's fine. It functions just fine. So return all of that to your dealer because your dealer is someone who is selling you stuff you don't need at crazy overexpensive prices, and go buy some bulk speaker wire from Amazon or Monoprice or Home Depot.
Now, you may not want to do this, but I suggest that you do it. And compare it not to the AudioQuest, but compare it to the Kimber cable.
Yeah.
Because the Kimber cable and anything that you buy from Monoprice or Blue Jeans or something like that is going to sound exactly the same. Now, let's just back it up a little bit here. One of the reasons why esoteric cable companies stay in business is there's a couple of reasons. One is their marketing. the marketing will be full of words like quantum and spinning and all of this nonsense that is literally that. It is literally nonsense. It's just a bunch of science words that sound impressive. Therefore, people read it, and they never have a little paragraph about their cables. It's always huge because what they do is they kill you with words. This is absolutely true.
It's the infomercial thing, right? If you just talk at someone long enough, then
they'll say it can't. Some of that must be true. They couldn't have made it all up. The fact is they made it all up for the most part. I mean, there may be some actual truth in there, but it's really accidental when that happens. I believe that it's just nonsense. So, but what they do is they make cables, and they may say, we want to make a cable that has absolutely the lowest resistance possible. Which, okay, fine, you can do that. But just because it has the lowest resistance doesn't mean that a lot of times you're messing up something else along the cable. And that gives you a passive EQ. Now, audiophiles will take that and say, I can hear a difference between this cable and this other cable. Therefore, my system has enough resolution, these are air quotes, resolutions to differentiate between one cable or another. No. What you have done is added a cable that is fundamentally not doing its job. Its job is to pass the signal from your amplifier to your speaker unaltered. If it alters it, it is a passive EQ. And if you're hearing it, it's because you are hearing that passive EQ. You would not be surprised if you had one of those, old-timey Kenwood little banks of EQ with sliders. You started sliding those things around and you heard the difference. You would be not surprised in one bit that you had heard the difference, because you know what an EQ does. It changes the sound. That's what these cables are likely doing. That's what most audiophile cables do, and that's why people who are on this high-end stuff will spend thousands of dollars for cables, because they're looking for the right passive EQ for their speaker, for their system, for everything else that's going on in their room, for their dedicated highly modified CD player, which is also not being linear anymore, for their record player, for this and that and that. They're looking for all these things in order to get this perfect resolution. And then somebody comes along and sends a bunch of $37,000 worth of free cables, and bada bing, bada boom, everything sounds like magic, even though it sounded like magic before. Now it's even more magic. So,
yeah, I mean, I wanted to throw in there, go to Parts Express, get their 12 gauge Belden cable as another one that's a very low cost, perfect. I mean, it sends the signal the way it's supposed to. And if you compared it to the Kimber cable, they'll sound identical.
It should very well. And I want to stress this, that we in no way are saying that you are a bad person, or that you're one of these audiophiles. All we're saying is that you really heard a difference. I think that you did, and I'm absolutely convinced that you went from non-linear to linear, and that's the difference that you're hearing. Yep. Those cables were probably doing something to the bass. Now, he says his dealer also tells him that if he adds dedicated amps to his system, he will get more clarity out of his speakers. Does this have any truth to this? He'd have the Marantz, blah, 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 MM8077 7-channel amp and a new Anthem MCA525 5-channel amp to choose from. Dealer says he'd go with just 5 channels and use his receiver for the 2 height channels. He watches movies at moderate volume, so this is overkill. So is this overkill in this case, or will there be a huge difference? And the fact is, there will be zero difference.
I mean, I wouldn't say zero in this case.
What has he got? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm having
SR7010, right?
I'm having an issue here, so keep going.
It's not impossible to hear a difference with a new amplifier, but it's going to be a small difference, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to say zero.
Well,
it's possible he'll hear something.
Did he say how big his room was? He never said how big his room was.
No, it didn't say how big the room is. No.
Well, I mean, okay, let's just say.
And those BNWs aren't the easiest speakers to drive. They dip fairly low in their impedance.
Listens to them at moderate volumes.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's sitting really far away, maybe. I don't really know. I mean,
like
I'd have to know where you were sitting and how far away you were sitting from the speakers before I could.
That's what I'm saying. It's not impossible for you to hear some difference, but it's going to be a small difference. It is not going to be a huge difference. Not at all.
I would honestly, dude, I would spend a little less time with your dealer and a little more time asking us things, because we will save you a whole bunch of money compared to what this guy is trying to do. like I said, you may hear a difference here. I just doubt it's going to be a very big one. I honestly, if I had to put money down on it, I would say you would hear no difference. I think you would not admit that. It might take you 6 months to get there.
Yeah, you'd want to listen blind,
but yeah,
you wouldn't want to put it in and go, ooh, that looks awfully pretty. I hear a difference. Yeah. Like, no, you need to compare blind so that you don't know whether the external amp is in the signal chain or not.
Hey man, take your receiver down to the dealer and say hook it up, and then switch it over with your amplifier and let him power those amps with anything else. Anything he wants, and then but also connect him directly to the receiver, and don't let him tell you which one. Don't watch and all that. Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.